Okay, for this video, I'm going to talk about Google Search Console. And believe it or not, a lot of my clients, except for only a few, have actually heard of this tool. It's not some magic wand. Um, it's not some big scary thing either. Believe it or not, it's a free tool that Google gives you access to so that you can see what it thinks of your website. And so it shows you what Google interprets your website is about in terms of the search phrases, where you rank, which pages are ranking, what sort of search volume you're getting. You can even compare time periods to see, how your website is trending, whether it's up or down, whether different phrases are getting found, etc. So why is this a free tool? Well, Google provides it just like analytics. So analytics, you can analyze obviously what people do on your website, but with Search Console, you can actually see how your website's performing in search, in organic search. And so you might have already seen some videos and information about free tools that are available. Yes, this is obviously one of them. There's others like SEMrush, Moz, Ahrefs, Ubersuggest, like the list goes on. If you do a search for SEO keyword tool or SEO analysis tool, you'll find a whole heap of different software programs that can do it. But the thing is, all of those other tools are actually not directly connected to Search Console. What does it mean? Well, where are all those tools getting the information from? And so if you dig a little bit deeper, you'll find a lot of those tools are drawing on information from either databases they're creating or scraping website search pages. It's not directly from Google itself. And so it can lead to some inaccuracies. It can lead to information that's not, 100% correct. And so the reason I advise a lot of business owners or for my clients to get access to this tool is for a couple of things. One is if I'm doing work for them, I want them to be able to see that things are working and this is the best way to do it. There's no hiding from it. Either it's going up or it's going down. The other reason is this is exactly what Google sees. And so at the end of the day, if you're trying to rank on Google, you want to see what's actually in their tool or in their system. And this gives you visibility to that. The other reason you want to use this tool, it also shows errors and issues to do with whether pages are getting read, whether Google understands what a page is about. And even for my own websites, I've created pages sometimes and then either they don't appear for the things it was written about or it's not quite on the topic. So that means I haven't made it clear enough. Could be just Google having a bad day and doesn't takes a while for it to realize what it's actually about. Could be a heap of different reasons, but with the data, you can make decisions around making changes, understanding whether things are working or not. And if you're paying someone to do this work, guess what? You can make them accountable for the work they're doing. And so, as I said, this is free. It gets updated every day. Um, it can show you history going back, 12 months. And so you can use it as a really good reference. You might be wondering, how hard is it to use? What do you have to do, etc. Believe it or not, they actually provide free training videos. So you can go through a whole series of videos here, starts from basic stuff and gets into more complex things. But you can learn how to do it yourself. And so the biggest sort of stumbling block is setting it up. The simplest thing is there's a verification code that can get added to the homepage of your website or the head area of your website, which can be done pretty easily. And the more complex approach is to add a verification code to your domain name settings. Either way, it takes, maybe 5 or 10 minutes to get it done. But once you've done it, it stays there and you've always then got access to this data. You can also connect this to Google Analytics. So you can actually see keyword phrases and things in analytics as well. I'm not going to go into that with this video, but it just means that, you're getting data from the main source of where it's all coming from and you can see it in different ways. And so what does it look like? Well, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but at the end of the day, you're looking for information here, not looking necessarily for, an amazing interface. And what it shows you is in this top part how many clicks your website's getting, then gives you a bit of a summary as to what pages on your website have been indexed. And by index, what that means is Google's read the page and it's added it to its index to potentially get found, depending on what the topic is or the keyword. Um, some data on the experience that people are having on the website. This is a whole nother topic talking about things like core web vitals and page speed and how well your website's performing in terms of speed when someone's using it on a phone or a desktop. For this client we're looking at here, the profile hasn't been set up that long, so we don't have a lot of data to draw from. If your website's got e-commerce, you might have these things here, which is to do with shopping. So it's having products on a website. And there could be some other enhancements and things that depends on the site. There'll be different data that appears here. So what's the most exciting thing to go look at? Well, obviously performance. You want to see what's working. And so here very quickly, there's lots of different options you can click and turn on and off. I'm not going to use this as a tutorial to go through all of them, but suffice to say that the simplest thing is you can look and you can say in the last 28 days, what did my website rank for or get clicks for? And so here what it's showing is there were 60 odd clicks, there was nearly 2,000 impressions, and around the world, so this is set to be global at the moment, the average that this website showed up for was around 30. Obviously, most clicks go to the top three positions, and so for a particular phrase, that's where you want to be. And so here we can see for the name of the business, they're in the top three, which makes sense. And then now we can start to see that this is again around the world. Go Cut Shop Sydney, they're in the top 10, which is really great. But where this becomes really powerful is you can switch the view to look at Australian based traffic, and then you can switch the view to do some comparisons. And so here, because I said this was new, we can have a bit of a look of at what's changing. And so here, for example, we can see comparing 7 days on 7 days. This website, Go Kart Shop Sydney, which is what this business is all about, they've gone from position 6 on average in Australia to 4. Now, unfortunately, this tool doesn't allow you to look at a city, so you can't choose Sydney, which is obviously would be even more ideal. But if it was, what we'd probably see is this number would be slightly higher again, because obviously the data would only be looking at people that are in Sydney. But what this shows us is across lots of different phrases, so custom racewear for argument's sake, they've gone a little bit backwards. The other week they were a bit higher. And so what it's showing is Google's testing different phrases up and down to see, what does or doesn't make sense for this website in relation to competition. Go kart repairs, they're now showing up in top three. Um, their name or a variation of their name. So obviously that's happening for lots of different variations of the name and so forth. And so what this gets used for is that you can look at obviously overall what phrases are happening, are appearing, and you can also look at what pages. So you can look in detail. So for example, this page is to do with a sticker kit, and we can have a look to see what Google recognizes the page is about. Now, using common sense, it's sticker kit, but in this case, at the moment, it's only showing up to do with their brand, so it's not 100% relevant. You'd probably want it, phrases to be showing up here, that references sticker kit for a go kart and so forth. So what it tells you is there's not enough content on this page to be able to do that. And you could go make changes to the page and then come back in a week or two and see the changes that have appeared here. And that's how you use this tool to make good decisions about what's happening on your website. The other area which is really powerful is to understand what pages have actually been indexed or not by Google. So in other words, what we just looked at was what phrases for a page are coming up. And here we can actually have a look and see whether pages are being read or not. And so in this instance, these are some of the errors, or, these are some of the things that have been flagged by Google to explain that, these things have not been indexed. They're not part of Google's index that's going to show to an end user. And so this first one, for example, looks scary. It's showing 320 odd pages, not indexed. But, and this is where the but comes in. What this is saying is there's another page on the website that is, more relevant to what that topic is about. And so sometimes this can happen. We'll dig into it in here and have a look. Sometimes this can happen when a website creates, lots of URL variations. Could be to do with searches, could be to do with, in this case, I don't know what it is. It's something to do with their Square e-commerce store. It's creating these numbered and looks like some verification page or something. I'm not really sure, but it's creating all these extra URLs. And what Google is saying here is, we know that the main page is this one here, which is product Dunlop SL1A tires, and so it's ignoring this one that's got the extra elements on the URL. Is it major? Well, depends. You could probably go find some people that'll say yes, you need to get rid of all of these, they're no good. You've got others that say it doesn't matter, Google's getting smart enough to know that it's not an issue. It's up to you. Sometimes having really good hygiene on your website becomes important, and so you would do something to, flag these as, I don't know, not to be indexed or not to be looked at or to be ignored, etc. Or you go find out why is the site creating all these URLs and put a stop to it. Some that are more important is pages that are set to be no indexed. Now, sometimes these could be pages that you definitely don't want to have, searched or scanned to be indexed. Looking at this one here, a cart cover for twin carts, number 461. I mean, I don't know why that would be a URL that's not indexed. You'd have to go look at the page, check whether it's actually a legitimate URL or not. If it was, in this instance here, maybe that's the product number, and so it needs to be a name instead of a number. But for whatever reason, right now, these are set to not be indexed. Could be a category page, could be a brand page. Um, these things have to be cleaned up because at the moment, Google's saying they've been set not to be indexed, but they could be valuable pages. These ones be true, very similar to the other ones, where Google found that it was a duplicate, so they'll probably get ignored. You don't have to worry about those. But this one here, and this product here, they could be important. And so the quick way to check is to click the link and go look, or you might already know based on how you know the website's set up. So some of these you can ignore, and some of them probably need to be, looked at in a little bit more depth. They're not found, meaning these are broken links. So for some reason, this is a URL that existed at some point, and it's coming up right now as a broken link. So either it's been changed or it's been moved. And so what you should do with these ones is there should be a redirect from what it was to what it is now. And in the case of this one, maybe it just should go back to the main URL, and there is no homepage in terms of having a URL for it. This one here, app/CMS, depends. Maybe this website used to sell an app. Maybe it was built on a previous CMS system like WordPress or something before it got moved over to Square. And so maybe these pages are never ever going to re-exist. And so you would tell Google that they're gone. And you would do that by setting a redirect using your either website host, an app, or either manually using programming, one of those few things. And so what happens is you go through each one of these. So here, for example, these ones are saying it's been crawled, so it's been looked at, but it hasn't been indexed. And could be for a number of reasons. Could be there's not enough information on the page. Could be that it's not clear what the page is about. Could be, I don't know, maybe it's just a photo on the page and there's nothing else. And so what this means is Google's showing you, it's hard to look at all of these, but it's decided at this point not to index it. And so, you could leave it and wait and see if it comes back and re-indexes. Or if this is something important, you would go to that page and have a look at it. And in this case, it's a Torini Venturi butterfly. So if this is something that's commonly sold and maybe your competitors are selling it, first thing to do would be to have a look and see how they present it, or search for yourself for this product to see what comes up and compare the information that they've got versus what you've got on your website. And that might lead to a change of Google wanting to index the page. Now, if you put exactly the same information as your competitors, may still not index it, because at the end of the day, Google wants really good quality information and information that will help people. If there's another 5, 6, 7, 10 websites with the exact same information, and in this case, it looks like it's a product for sale, so most likely there is lots of places with that information that's exactly the same. For you to beat those other companies, you have to have better information. So not just the manufacturer's description, you'd have to have something else to make it a little bit unique and to make it more relevant for the user to be able to beat those other companies. And so this could be the case for all of these. So this is showing there's about 200 of them. And so this comes back to having really good content. Um, and I sometimes argue till I'm black and blue in the face with different clients about, good quality content will always win, or, good quality content will always make the difference. At the end of the day, even if you didn't believe my advice or didn't believe anything you read on the internet, here's the data. The data is showing that there are 189 pages in this example that they've been crawled but not index. So actually, Google's gone through and had a look and figured out what's on the page and decided not to index it, which means the content is not good enough. And there's already other content on the internet that's satisfying, people searching for whatever that item was. Um, this second one here means it's discovered, or it understands a page is there, but it's decided not to index it. And so between these two, you can make some decisions around whether or not your content's good enough, especially if this has been reported for a long period of time and you've made no changes. It obviously tells you that whatever's there's, not good enough. This last one, it basically means Google thinks that the page that you've said has, topic ABC or product XYZ. It thinks there's another page that has that information that's better. So in other words, it's ignoring what you're telling it and it's decided to show people another page for that topic. Now, that could happen if you've got very similar blog posts, or you've got two products that are very similar and it can't determine the variation between the two. And so, in other words, again, it just comes back to the clarity around the content. What you can do here, you can look at some of these samples. And so, here, for example, it's saying that there's something else more relevant. Now, that could be a product that's got a similar name. It could be another package, could be a whole heap of things. You'd have to dig into the site to have a look at that. And so the power in this is that if you have a website, so in this case, there's already 300 odd pages that have been indexed. If you've got a site that sells thousands of products and you've got 1,000 pages of things, well, you can use some of this data to figure out what proportion of that has been, discovered or crawled, and then what proportion actually has been indexed. And this gives you an idea of whether or not Google thinks the information in your website's strong enough to then either be shown for what's on those pages or for you to rank for a particular topic, a particular brand if you're selling something, or a particular category of product if you're selling something, for example. And so you can use this to gauge your efforts around the content that's on your website. So here's where you can use data to make really good decisions. If you're a service business, you would want to make sure that if you're showing 20 services, if five of those make up 80% of your business, you want to make sure those five are indexed and you're ranking for those five. If you're a product business and out of 1,000 SKUs, maybe 100 make up 80% of your business, you want to make sure that those 100 are indexed and they're ranking for that for the type of item that it is. And so here you can check what is or isn't being indexed. And then going back to the performance section, you can actually look at specific pages to see, and we'll do another one as a test, let's say custom racewear, to see what it's getting recognized for. So in this instance here, this is saying in the last 7 days, this page hasn't had any clicks. If I turn that off just to make it a bit easier to read what it's shown up for. So, custom race suits in Australia, they're still not in the top 10. It's sort of going up and down. Custom made race suits in Australia, so that's obviously that's going up at the moment. Custom race wear, so it was last week in the top sort of 4 or 5, and then it dropped out. So that means Google, from the looks of this, is trying to figure out which one of these is most relevant for this page. And then the last one, go-kart raceway. So, um, it just means that maybe there's got to be some better content on there. Maybe there's got to be better definition around, are they on this page? Is it race suits for people that drive cars, or is it race suits for go-kart drivers? And so, getting a bit more specific can then help Google understand what this page is about. If 90% of the sales, let's say in this case, are for, say, go-kart race suits, then all the content probably should be based around go-kart race suits that are custom made. And if this business wanted to sell race suits for, I don't know, other categories like racing cars or dune buggies or motorbikes and things like that, probably what has to get done is separate pages for each of those disciplines, because you would have different URLs, you would have different imagery, you'd have different description that relates to each discipline of motorsport, and that would make it a lot more specific. If the products are then named that way as well, if there was individual SKUs for hats, t-shirts, the suits, boots, etc., then all of that would sort of fall into a category of content that's on the site that then would hopefully rank for if it's done correctly. And so that's how you can use some of this information to make commercially sensible decisions rather than guessing, because the data's here to show you what it does or doesn't show up for. And so that is, a quick overview of how this free tool can be used to literally see what Google thinks of your website and what it ranks for. And so if I flick to, let's say, one of my own, which has been sitting there for quite a while, we can compare. I'm just going to find myself. Um, so here, this is saying for my own website, in the last 7 days had 20 odd people clicking. And if we look down here, we can see it's not necessarily my brand name, it's for the services I offer, which is marketing consultant or freelance marketing consultant. You can see all the different variations. Now, in different phrases, I'm showing up in different positions. Um, the freelance one is dropping off, but I don't know, it was about 8, 9 weeks ago, I was at the top. So in other words, it's cycling as Google is showing, different results to test what works best, which site gives the person what they want. So in other words, maybe there's other sites that are more specialized to being a freelancer. Waiting room advertising seems weird, but this is to do with a blog post I wrote. And so the blog post talks about whether or not you should use waiting room advertising for your business. So is it good that I show up for this? Well, as a service, no, because I don't sell it. But for somebody looking for information about that topic around what does it cost and where do you get it and is it good, etc., well then yeah, that makes sense. Because it's all to do with marketing and promoting your business, which is obviously what my website is about and what the advice that I provide is about. And so here, here's another good example for me: social media marketing consultant, nowhere. So in other words, ranks 80. Why? I actually don't have any content on my website about this. So I do have content about being a marketing consultant, but I don't have anything specific to do with social media. And that's why I don't rank high for it. This is why I don't get very many impressions for it. Why should I care? Well, if I wanted to find business in this topic, I would then create another page or a blog post or some content to do with that topic to get found for it. And that's how I can use this data to make business decisions, even for my own business, to understand where there are other opportunities. Um, yeah, most of these are all to do with marketing consultant. Trying to look for one that here, healthcare marketing expert Sydney. So here, for example, if I decided that I wanted to specialize in the healthcare niche, then instead of having a generic page about marketing consulting, I would have one that's very specific to the healthcare niche. Now, depending on how convincing I make that would then depend on whether somebody actually decides to use me. But what this is showing me is there is some people specifically looking for that. And that's how data can be used to make decisions for your business. And, at the end of the day, it's coming from the horse's mouth. It's coming from the platform where most people are searching. And so, if people are searching for these phrases here, it also means they're searching for it maybe on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or Bing or other platforms because it's kind of like the words that people are using. And so that means if your content strategy is all about get the information on your website, but then talk about it when you're writing a social media post or you're doing a video and stuff like that, what it means is as search gets smarter to identify words and what people are saying in videos and the transcripts that come out of videos and things like that, then you potentially can get found in many different ways for a specific topic. But it's all about being really clear and very specific about what is the content you're writing about, and is that better or more in depth than all the other people writing about the same thing. And these days there's a million people writing about everything. That's just the way it is, doesn't matter what industry you're in. And so that becomes even more important when it comes down to the quality of content. So free tool, raw data, you can use it to see errors and find issues. You can use it to then make smart decisions about what you need to improve. And if you improve your content well enough, then you'll see the numbers ramp up over time. That's Google Search Console.